Who ended slavery? Now, the final freedom that is left is a freedom that cannot be given to us.
Before the Europeans go there, the Arabs then take all of it.
It's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.
Good evening, my beautiful people. It's your boy again, Shady Shae, the one and only. And today, guys, we are back again. Today, I want to talk about a topic that I think is very important. A topic that is pretty sensitive, but people don't really talk about it. And to talk about this, I want to ask a question. All right, guys, and if you know the answer, please put the answer in the comment section. The question is this: who ended slavery? Or, to rephrase it, who started the process of ending slavery? If you know the answer, guys, put it in the comment section. If you want clues, I can give you a clue. Was it the black people? Was it the black leaders? Maybe they came together and decided to fight the slavers. They were like, no, you can't take us into slavery anymore. And they fought up the slavers and the fought of the slavers. Was it the black leaders that came together? Did we unite? Or was it the Arabs? Maybe when they came to Africa and were spreading Islam, they were like, oh, you know what? Everybody needs to be free and equal. So let's end slavery. Was it them? Or maybe it was the Americans. Maybe the Americans decided to end slavery. Could it have been them? Or maybe it was the British. Maybe the British, when they went to Africa, you know, to colonize Africa and maybe plunder and pillage, then they decided to end slavery. Who knows? Well, so guys, who do you think ended slavery? I'm going to tell you. All right, I'm going to tell you who started the process of ending slavery. The reason I'm making this video is because we need to learn history. We need to know the things that have been. We need to know the things of the past. We need to know what our ancestors have been through so we don't repeat the same mistakes. All right, the same mistakes as they did. Okay, and all this ignorance in our people, my people, it's time for us to shed light on it. Okay, it's time for us to know. All right, get knowledge. Knowledge is very important. Okay, so I'll tell you who ended slavery or who started the process of ending slavery. I hope nobody here said it was the African leaders. Yeah, the African leaders came together, or the Africans generally united and decided to fight off the slavers. Guys, if you chose that, yeah, that is completely wrong. Because during the slavery, the Africans connived. They connived with the slavers. In fact, the Africans were selling off people as slaves. All right, they were selling people off as slaves. Okay, yes, some other Africans were kidnapped. All right, but okay, look at this. You see on BBC here, it says, my Nigerian great-grandfather sold slaves. All right, and if you read this, yeah, you go down all the way. Here, it says, my great-grandfather, Nwambani Ogogo Oriaku, was what I prefer to call a businessman from the Igbo ethnic group of southeastern Nigeria. He dealt in a number of goods, including tobacco and palm produce. He also sold human beings. He had agents who captured slaves from different places and brought them to him. My father told me. Now, forget the stories that I was told as well when I was growing up as a kid of how black people were selling black people. Because my one, I mean, it wasn't recorded, it wasn't written anywhere. It was by word of mouth that I was told. Okay, at least I met my grandfather before he died. Then on this side, confronting Africa's role in the slave trade. Okay, if you scroll all the way down, she reports that Donald Duke. Now, Donald Duke was a former governor in Nigeria. So, former governor of Calabar State and a good government presidential candidate in the 2019 Nigerian elections, acknowledges that his ancestors participated in the slave trade. However, Duke says, I'm not ashamed of it because I personally wasn't directly involved. However, he does not want history to be forgotten. That's what I'm saying. History shouldn't be forgotten. And do not be misconstrued. Do not just blame white people for a crime or for inhumane acts that they did, yeah, in partnership with our black people, because the blame is to be shared. And that is not even all. Here in the 18th century, kings of Dahomey, known today as Benin, so Nigeria, became big players in the slave trade, waging a bitter war on their neighbors, resulting in the capture of 10,000, including another important slave owner, the king of Wida. King Tegbesu made £250,000 a year selling people into slavery in 1750. In 1750, making £250,000 selling slaves. So, black people, were definitely in on it. They were involved. Arabs, you know about Arabs already. Arabs and slave trade. Let's listen to this video. There are quite a lot of references I can use, but I want to listen to this guy, Muta Baruka.
And there is a pathway to Europe that no one spoke of or speak of when them talk about enslavement of black people. And that is the trek across the Sahara Desert into Europe, into what you call Southern Europe. Them used to take our ancestors, chain them up and carry them across the desert and carry them into France and all the other places. So it's not every African who was enslaved did come to this part of the world. No, sir. A whole heap away did go across the Sahara Desert. But even within that, before the Europeans go there, the Arabs them take hold of it because they were spreading them Islamic religion. And most of North Africa get caught in that Islamic religion. To the point where you have Africans now give up them Africanness and mostly talk about Islam. As a matter of fact, a whole heap of these Africans call anybody who was like Muslims infidels. Can you believe that? Infidels. That means if he's not Muslim, whether you're black or whatsoever, you're supposed to dead.
So, there you have it. A summary. Definitely not the Arabs. Then, is it the Americans? You think the Americans ended slavery? I mean, look at America right now. Look at the state of America right now. Look at how black people are being treated in America. Okay, even though America is a free world, it's kind of free world, but black people are going through a lot in that country. Okay, through a lot. Even black people against black people as well in that country is just a nightmare. Now it brings us back to the last one, the British. The British ended slavery. Well, if they didn't end it completely, they started the process of ending slavery. You're going to ask me how I knew. How do I know? Guys, it is in history. It is all written. These are things that happened long in the past. Okay, so if you want to talk about slavery, about how black people have been treated, you need to talk from a place of knowledge, all right, not from a place of ignorance. Okay, so the British started campaigning since in the 1700s. All right, they started campaigning about it in the 1700s, but all their attempts kept failing. Failed attempt upon failed attempt upon failed attempt, not until 1807. So we're going to read it here. 1807, abolition of the slave trade. All right, so we have this here to read. In the 18th century, a brutal trade network transported kidnapped Africans to European colonies in the Americas and the Caribbean to work as slaves, mostly on plantations. In 1787, campaigners against slavery such as Thomas Clarkson and Granville Sharp founded the Society for the Abolition of the Slave Trade, believing that ending the trade was the first step towards eradicating slavery completely. They raised awareness about conditions, including with publications from former slaves such as Olaudah Equino, boycotted slave-produced goods and petitioned Parliament. In Parliament, the campaign was led by William Wilberforce. It was only after many failed attempts that in 1807 the slave trade in the British Empire was abolished. However, slaves in the colonies, excluding areas ruled by the East India Company, were not freed until 1838, and only after slave owners, rather than the slaves themselves, received compensations. The modern slavery bill demonstrates that this issue remains live today. So you see how it started already in Great Britain. All right, already started in this country before America in 1860 something. So you see here it says no, the United States ended slavery in 1865, not 1860. Meanwhile, it started in Great Britain from the 1700s. Yeah, they started working towards it, and then in 1807, then Parliament, got involved in it. In fact, let me even tell you something maybe you guys don't even know. Great Britain ended paying for slavery in 2015, very recently, just about 10 years ago. Less than 10 years ago, 9 years ago, that's when they finished paying for slavery. Can you believe that? So Britain's slave owner compensation loan, reparations and tax havenry. It is said that they borrowed about 20 million to compensate slave owners back then, and that was one of the largest loans that was ever taken. So if you read here, it says it's hard to believe, but it's only in 2015 that according to the Treasury, British taxpayers finished paying off the debt which the British government incurred in order to compensate British slave owners in 1835 because of the abolition of slavery. Abolition meant that profiteering from human misery would gradually come to an end. Not a penny was paid to those who were enslaved and brutalized. the British government borrowed 20 million to compensate slave owners, which amounted to a massive 40% of the Treasury's annual income, or about 5% of British GDP. That was one of the largest in history. No, the loan was one of the largest in history. One of the largest, guys. So guys, why am I making this video? I'm making this video for us to learn history. We need to learn the things that have been so we don't repeat the same mistakes of our ancestors. Okay, black people can amount to much. We can do so much in this world, yeah. Rather than playing victim mentality, we can come out there, be strong, and can bring something to the table rather than always complaining. Okay, racism here, racism there. Yes, there is racism. Yes, there is discrimination, and we have been complaining about it. Yeah, but we need to do things a bit more differently. Okay, you want to raise complaint about it? Yes, raise complaint about it. But what do we bring to the table? If I have problems so much in a certain place, I'll find another place that's better. If we feel this place is too troublesome, we can always go back to Africa. But there is a problem. All right, we say, oh, if we go back to Africa, the Western world have hand in African politics, and we are being oppressed. So if you say they can control the African politics even till date, are you trying to say the Western people are better than us? Or do we have a problem in ourselves? I think it's time for us to look into ourselves rather than blaming. Look into ourselves, come together and find a solution. Okay, our governments are corrupt. They're so corrupt that even if we move back, life there will be so unbearable. So right now, it seems like slavery is no more people being sold. It's like the people from the third world, because slavery is ended now, the governments, yes, they're so corrupt. They steal all the money. They make life so difficult for the citizens, and the citizens of their own accord travel to foreign lands, travel to foreign countries, seeking the better life, and a lot are working hard for pennies. And the Western world, oh, they're saying, oh, cheap labor, yeah, bring in the cheap labor. Okay, they are going on their own accord, which is also kind of, form of slavery, because a lot of people that leave their countries don't exactly want to leave, but they kind of have no choice, but they have to leave because there's no safety. Yeah, if you're working hard, you're making money, there's no safety for you. All right, they just make life so difficult for everyone, and it's like saying, you know what, guys, just go out. We can't sell you, so we'll make life difficult for you to go out. It is crazy, but I believe that we can come together, we can find that unity, come together and be strong. Okay, rather than blaming, we can become integral part of society, achieve a lot. All right, like even in the UK, black people amount to a lot in the UK. Show me one Western country that treats black people better than the United Kingdom. I mean, many Western countries treat black people pretty decently, but in the UK, black people have so much rights, so much freedom. All right. Yes, there's some discrimination. There's still form of troubles and things, problems here and there. There's problems everywhere. But if you compare the UK, compare how we are treated here to other countries, compared to America, compare it, you see that the UK is a much better place for one to be black. I mean, Africa will have been the best place for us to be black, but what are our leaders doing? Yeah, and forget the leaders. We should look at ourselves. How united are we as black people? You see what I mean? Anyway, guys, this video, like I said, I made it for us to learn history. Learn history so you know the things, yeah, that have been, so we don't repeat the same mistakes of our ancestors. Also, so we don't, throw blames on who we shouldn't throw blames on. Okay, because if the British didn't start ending slavery when they started, are we sure the form of slavery we knew back in the day would not have continued? Are you sure it wouldn't have persisted? So I think we should give honor to whom honor is due. I'm not saying, okay, the British are saints, they're angels, they're all the best people ever on earth, but they did something worth commending. So yes, I commend them for that. Yeah, they did well. It might have been for ulterior motives. They might have benefited in a certain way. Who knows? But at the end of the day, we received our freedom. Well, our freedom to an extent. Okay. Now the final freedom that is left is a freedom that cannot be given to us. It's a freedom that nobody can pay for. It's a freedom that nobody can just come and just pull you out from the slavery and boom, you're free. No, the freedom that we need, Bob Marley even said it, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. We black people still have mental slavery. The slavery we have is mental now. It is not physical. It's in there. It's in there. And how can we get it out? By shedding light, by talking about it, by bringing it out for us to realize that we have a problem. When you realize you have a problem, you have found 50% of the solution. All right, guys, I love you. See you soon. Peace out.
Oh, I love you more than words can say. You are me. Oh, you are the light that shine in my way. You are me. Oh, I love you more than words can say. You are me. Oh, you are the light that shine in my way.